Good afternoon. Thank you for making time. To my left is our Budget Director, Robert Mejica. To my right is our Counsel, Alfonso David. And to his right is Michael Copey, the Head of Director of Emergency Management. We would like to give you an update on tomorrow and some developments that will be happening tomorrow. I have a meeting scheduled with President Trump tomorrow afternoon, mid-afternoon, so I will be going down to meet with him. The topic of the meeting is going to be the revenue shortfall in New York State and the effect of the so-called SALT provision. I requested the meeting. The President has spoken about SALT over the past few days. It's come up in interviews. But to me, there is no more vital long-term issue for the state from a financial point of view than SALT. What it does is it has created two different tax structures in this country. And it has created a preferential tax structure in Republican states. It has redistributed wealth in this nation from Democratic states, from so-called blue states, to red states. You have an administration that loves to say they're against redistribution. They have done it on the highest level imaginable. This is not individual to individual redistribution. This is not a rich person to a poor person. This is literally taking from the richer states and transferring to the states with less income. Just a couple of numbers for you to remember. SALT costs New York $15 billion that we transfer to the federal government. We pay more than any other state for the SALT deduction. New York already sends the most money to Washington, D.C. of any other state. New York sends more money to Washington than any other state. Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan, God rest his soul, railed about this for years, the inequity of the New York relationship to the federal government. We are the #1 donor state. Net $35 billion going to Washington. The top 10 donor states send a combined $95 billion more to Washington than they get back. Top 10 send $95 billion. 40 states get more than they give. 40 states get more than they give. So not only is it a policy of redistribution, you're taking from the 10 donor states and you're giving to 40 states. 10 states contribute, 40 states take more than they put in. How do you possibly justify that in terms of equity, fairness, justice, on any level? How is this fair? Literally 10 support 40. And coincidentally, there happens to be a political coincidence that the 10 happen to be Democratic states and the 40 happen to be Republican leaning. Well, these are high tax states. Baloney. We have controlled spending like few states in the United States have controlled spending. We've controlled spending more than past Republican governors have controlled spending. Well, these are states with high debt. Baloney. We have cut the debt. during my tenure. These are states that aren't well managed. Well, maybe that's their opinion, but companies called Moody's and Fitch and S&P that supposedly know something about this and are impartial experts have given us the highest credit rating since 1972. This is not an academic discussion, my friends. This is real life. This changes the economic trajectory of the state. People are mobile, and they will go to a better tax environment. That is not a hypothesis, that is a fact. People act in their own economic interest. Businesses act in their own economic interest. If you set up two economic realities, and one is much more favorable than the other, and they are mobile, they will move. You look at what's happened now, just recently, in the numbers we've seen. SALT has been talked about for now over a year, right? So people have had a chance to adjust and to react, and you're seeing a drop in the states that are affected by SALT. New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, California, Massachusetts. It's not just a New York issue. I've spoken with Governor Baker in Massachusetts. I've spoken with Governor Newsom in California. I've been speaking with the National Governors Association, Democratic Governors Association. This is a real and pressing issue. Well, maybe it's happening all across the state and all across the nation, and there's no connection between SALT states and non-SALT states. Well, then why have the other states that weren't affected by SALT not seen the same kind of impact that we have seen? It is, by definition, SALT, because you are creating economic incentives. And this is what we know, and this is what we do all day long. This is why we have economic incentive programs in this state, because we know when businesses make decisions, economics matter. Second point is just to give you an overview of where we are in general. I started out the year, I did a speech on FDR, I did an inaugural speech, laid out a 100-day agenda, and we're making remarkable progress on that agenda. Reproductive rights, gun violence, democracy initiatives, Child Victims Act, DREAM Act, LGBTQ rights, Green New Deal. We have several items left to keep housing affordable for New Yorkers. That's basically the rent reforms, legalize adult use of cannabis, ensure fairness in the criminal justice system, that's bail reform, discovery, speedy trials, and make the 2% property tax cap permanent. Those are the items that are left to address, which hopefully we get done in the next 100 days. Finally, I'm going to turn it over to Michael Copey. What would a week be if we didn't have to worry about a storm? I don't know what I would do with myself. But we have a storm coming. There's no doubt about that. It's basically going to be a statewide situation. Heavier in upstate and in the Capital District region, lighter in downstate New York and Long Island, but a serious statewide effect. And I will turn it over to Mr. Copey to give you some more details on that. Michael?
Thanks, Governor. The storm is expected to produce anywhere from a couple inches of snow and sleet in the more southern regions of the state to more than a foot of precipitation in the North Country. Specifically, we expect approximately 1 to 3 inches in the New York City metropolitan area and 5 to 8 inches throughout most of the rest of the state. The hardest hit areas, including the Capital District, the Mohawk Valley, and the Tug Hill areas, will see anywhere from 12 to 24 inches of snow, depending on where the storm sets up and how long it stays over that area. Ahead of the storm, DISHES has been coordinating with all state agencies and all local governments to ensure that everyone is well prepared. The state is ready to deploy more than 2,100 snow plows and over 4,500 equipment operators to begin plowing the roads as soon as the storm hits. The Department of Transportation and the Thruway Authority currently have over 500,000 tons of salt available, not only for our roads, but also to provide to municipalities should a request come in that they've run out of salt. We are redeploying assets from some of the areas in the southern part of the state that may not see as much snow into those hard-hit areas so that we can address those problems quickly. And the state police will also be redeploying assets into those areas. Finally, the Department of Public Service has been communicating with all the utility service providers in the state to ensure that their emergency preparedness measures are appropriate and to monitor any outages that may occur so that they're addressed as quickly as possible. Governor, we're doing everything we can to keep New Yorkers safe and assist local authorities throughout this weather event.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Copey.